Let me tell you something straight and without sugarcoating it. There are people walking this earth who know exactly how to blend in. They laugh at the right moments, speak the right language, quote scripture if they have to, and look you in the eye like they mean every word. But behind that smile is something hollow, something calculated. This isn't fantasy or superstition, and it's not about paranoia or drama. This is about awareness. Evil doesn't always announce itself with violence or chaos. Sometimes it arrives polished, well-spoken, and convincing. Sometimes it sits right beside you, nodding along, waiting for the right moment to show its true nature when you are least prepared to defend yourself. There comes a moment when something inside a person shifts, and most people miss it because they're looking for obvious signs. They think narcissism is loud, flashy, full of ego and self-love, someone obsessed with their reflection and their own voice. That's the shallow version. That's what you see in public. But there's another form, one that hides beneath restraint and charm, one that watches instead of boasts. This kind is patient, cold, strategic. It doesn't need attention from the room because it's focused on you. And by the time you sense something is wrong, you're already emotionally invested, already doubting yourself, already questioning why love suddenly feels heavy instead of safe. It usually begins gently, almost beautifully. A look that lingers, a sentence that feels perfectly timed, a moment where they seem to recognize something deep in you that no one else ever has. That's intentional. They mirror your values, your pain, your language. They listen carefully, not out of care, but out of calculation. They remember the details of your past, your insecurities, your wounds, not to protect them, but to catalog them. You feel seen, understood, chosen. And that feeling pulls you closer. You mistake resonance for connection, familiarity for safety. Meanwhile, they are learning exactly where you bend, where you break, and how much pressure it takes to control you. You don't realize at first that what feels like intimacy is actually information gathering. Every confession you make becomes leverage. Every tear you shed becomes a tool. To someone who has surrendered themselves to darkness, empathy is not sacred. It's exploitable. They know how to perform pain convincingly. They know when to crumble, when to apologize, when to play the wounded soul. They can turn accountability into accusation and conflict into tragedy. And because you feel deeply, because you care, you pause, you soften, you question yourself, you tell yourself they're just hurting, that love means patience. And in that hesitation, they gain ground. Over time, the pattern becomes impossible to ignore, yet painfully hard to escape. Words don't match actions. Apologies come without change. Promises dissolve the moment they're tested. Still, every time you gather the strength to walk away, they sense it. They always do. And they respond with just enough vulnerability, just enough warmth to pull you back in. Not because they love you, but because they need you engaged, confused, hopeful. They don't aim to fulfill you. They aim to sustain access, to keep you emotionally tethered, constantly questioning your instincts instead of trusting them. When you are weakest, when your guard is down and your heart is open, that's when the real damage happens. Not with violence, but with absence. Silence used as punishment. Affection withheld as control. Words twisted until you no longer recognize your own reality. The harm is subtle, surgical, designed to erode you slowly. You don't notice the wounds right away because there's no blood, only exhaustion, self-doubt, and a quiet loss of self. This is not simple insensitivity. This is the deliberate use of another person's humanity as a weapon, and that is where the line is crossed. There is a difference between someone who lacks awareness and someone who possesses awareness and chooses to exploit it. Selfish people stumble. They act without thinking. But those who operate from darkness calculate. They observe your timing, your moods, your breaking points. They know when you're tired, when you're lonely, when you're most likely to forgive. They don't guess, they sense it. And that's why discernment matters. Because once you see this pattern clearly, you understand that walking away isn't cruelty, it's survival. And protecting your empathy is not weakness, it's wisdom. They wait for it patiently, almost calmly, like a hunter who understands timing better than force. They don't rush. They observe. They let you come to them when you're raw, when the tears are already falling and your defenses are gone. You speak from the heart, believing vulnerability will be met with care. They listen without warmth, without connection, storing every detail. Later, when conflict rises, they reach back into that moment and pull out your pain like a weapon. Your trauma becomes an argument point. Your fears become ammunition. That is not a mistake or a misunderstanding. That is spiritual decay. That is someone who no longer recognizes human dignity, only opportunity. They will shatter you and then accuse you of being broken. They'll inflict the wound and then criticize how you bleed. Too sensitive, too emotional, too dramatic. That's the script. And what makes it even more devastating is how convincing they are to everyone else. In public, they are polished, generous, admired. People praise their kindness, excuse their behavior, defend their character. Meanwhile, you are alone with the damage. When you finally try to speak up, your truth sounds unbelievable because it contradicts the image they've carefully built. You're not just hurt, you're isolated, doubting whether reality itself is slipping through your fingers. When a narcissist crosses into evil, something fundamental changes. They stop needing connection and start craving control. Love is no longer shared, it's harvested. Your affection feeds them. Your hope keeps you tethered. Your empathy becomes both their camouflage and their blade. They manipulate it so smoothly that your inner voice starts turning against you. You replay conversations, second-guess reactions, rewrite history in their favor. Maybe I pushed too hard. Maybe I misunderstood. But those doubts weren't born naturally. They were planted deliberately, whispered repeatedly, reinforced until confusion felt like truth. This isn't a relationship anymore. It's psychological warfare disguised as intimacy. What's truly terrifying is the absence of guilt. There is no regret behind their eyes, no pause of conscience. Pain doesn't trouble them, it empowers them. The deeper you sink, the more solid they feel. There's a subtle satisfaction when you unravel, a flicker of pleasure when you cry, a quiet smirk when you break. If you ever notice it, even for a second, you've seen what's real. Because love does not rejoice in suffering. Love recoils from it. But to them, your pain is confirmation that they still have influence, still have access, still own a fragment of your emotional world. This is how they operate, methodically and without mercy. They don't pursue the cruel or the hardened. They seek the gentle, the forgiving, the ones who believe in healing and second chances. They don't need bruises on your skin. They aim for fractures in your spirit. Slowly, you begin shrinking, choosing words carefully, measuring every reaction. You walk on eggshells, terrified that one wrong sentence will trigger rage or worse, silence so heavy it feels like abandonment. And all the while, they call it love, while you quietly disappear inside yourself. And the worst part is you won't stop trying. You'll actually try harder. You'll give more of yourself, explain yourself until your throat is dry, apologize for things you didn't do, and bend in ways you never thought you would. You'll believe that if you can just find the right words, the right tone, the right version of yourself, you can finally make it work. But the standard keeps shifting. The rules keep changing. Because it was never about love or understanding. It was about domination and control, about feeding a hollow space inside them so deep they'd rather drain you than face it themselves. People like this don't just hurt you in obvious ways, they hollow you out slowly, carefully, with intention. It happens in small moments you barely notice at first. You lose a little confidence here, a little joy there. You stop laughing as freely. You stop speaking as boldly. One day you look in the mirror and don't recognize the person staring back. Your light is dimmer. Your voice feels smaller. Your empathy, once your greatest strength, now feels like an open wound. That's the terror of it. By the time you understand what's happening, the damage is already woven into who you've become. When a narcissist gives themselves over to evil, it doesn't arrive with chaos or noise. It's quiet, calculated, almost invisible. There are no dramatic scenes, no obvious cruelty for outsiders to point at. just emotional torture wrapped in charm and smiles. There's a special darkness that comes when someone doesn't just tell lies, but lives inside them. They breathe deception. They thrive on it. This isn't about harmless omissions or sparing feelings. This is deliberate distortion. Once they cross that line, truth becomes a threat, and anything that threatens their control must be destroyed. They don't lie the way most people do. This isn't panic lying or damage control. It's precise, surgical. Every lie serves a purpose. They don't just tell you what you want to hear, they tell you what they need you to believe. They lie to confuse your instincts. They lie to isolate you from clarity. They lie to maintain power. And what makes it dangerous is their confidence. No hesitation, no nervous energy. They look you in the eye and rewrite reality so smoothly you start wondering if the problem is you. At first it's subtle. Small contradictions, stories that shift slightly, moments that don't quite line up. You notice, but you dismiss it. You don't want to seem suspicious. You tell yourself you misunderstood. You tell yourself you forgot. And that's exactly where they want you. Because they aren't just lying, they're planting doubt. Brick by brick, they construct a new version of reality around you. One where your memory is unreliable and their version is always calm, reasonable, and certain. You remember something clearly, and they say it never happened. You recall a conversation word for word, and they tell you that you're imagining it. And the more you cling to the truth, the harder they pull you away from it. They don't debate facts. They overwrite them, and they do it softly, patiently, with a steady voice that makes you feel dramatic for even questioning it. That's the trap. No yelling, no explosions, just quiet manipulation until your own mind feels like unfamiliar territory. Over time, a mental fog settles in. You start doubting your perceptions. You reread messages. You replay conversations. You take notes just to feel grounded. Not because you're paranoid, but because you've been trained to distrust yourself. That's how they win. Not by force, but by making you surrender your own sense of reality. And the terrifying part is this. Once you stop trusting yourself, you become completely dependent on the person who's destroying you, believing they're the only one who knows what's real. They don't just lie to cover their tracks. No, that would be too simple, too human. What they do is far more dangerous. They replace reality itself. Every event is rewritten to cast them as the hero, the innocent, the misunderstood, never the perpetrator. If they betray you, it's because you weren't attentive enough. If they deceive you, it's because you couldn't handle honesty. Every fault, every misstep, every sin is reframed to make you appear culpable while they remain untarnished. And when you try to hold them accountable, you're dismissed. You're overreacting. You're too sensitive. You're imagining things. Slowly, methodically, your sense of reality is stripped, replaced with confusion and self-doubt. This isn't just manipulation. This isn't casual gaslighting. This is spiritual warfare. It's an assault not only on your emotions, but on your mind, your clarity, and your sense of truth itself. By controlling what you perceive as real, they force dependence. You start doubting your instincts, your memory, your reasoning. And once you're in that space, they control you completely. Charm, rage, tears, whatever is necessary. They wear masks, sometimes multiple at once, shifting flawlessly depending on who is watching. Around friends and family, they are graceful, loving, misunderstood. Behind closed doors, they are cold, strategic, and deliberate in their deception, waiting for moments to strike. Even when you try to expose them, the groundwork is already laid. They have preemptively positioned themselves as the reasonable one, the concerned partner, the loyal friend. They've seeded doubt in the minds of others, telling stories that make you appear unstable or difficult. By the time you speak, no one believes you. You are cast as the problem, angry, bitter, toxic. Meanwhile, they walk through the world untouchable, untarnished, their reputation intact. They lie not just to protect themselves, but to elevate themselves, to paint a narrative in which they are the savior, the genius, the martyr, while you appear to be the antagonist. They become storytellers of false reality, convincing and polished, so that when you finally recognize the manipulation, the damage is already done. And this isn't a one-time act or a temporary defense mechanism. It is deliberate, habitual, strategic. They manipulate not just the facts, but the very concept of truth, weaponizing reality itself. Confront them with clarity or evidence, and they drown you in deflection. They twist your words, deflect your questions, redirect the conversation. A simple inquiry about dishonesty becomes a debate about your tone, your attitude, your character. The original issue vanishes beneath a flood of confusion, leaving them untouched, their control maintained. You find yourself trapped in endless cycles of contradiction, endlessly trying to anchor yourself in truth, but the ground constantly shifts beneath your feet. That is not coincidence. That is design. Every moment spent deciphering reality is a moment you are not using to escape their influence. The goal is clear: confuse, distract, delay, deny. And the terrifying part? They know exactly what they are doing. They are aware of the manipulation, the lies, the distortions, and they do it anyway, sometimes with cruel satisfaction. They gain a sense of superiority and control from your struggle. And even if you eventually break free, they continue to distort your story, smear your name, and attack your truth because your reality is their enemy. Now you've seen behind the curtain, and that awareness alone makes you dangerous to them. Your clarity threatens everything they've built. You'll try to tell your story, to explain what really happened, and some people won't believe you. Not because you're lying, but because the narcissist prepared the stage long before you ever spoke. They cried at the right moments, praised the right people, played the role so flawlessly that your truth sounds implausible by comparison. That's part of the devastation. Not just the abuse itself, but watching them walk away, admired while you're left carrying the wreckage, trying to explain wounds no one else can see. That's the reality of dealing with someone who doesn't merely lie, but perfects it. They don't care about truth in any meaningful way. Truth is expendable to them. What they care about is image, perception, and winning. If bending reality secures their position, they consider it success. And there's something deeply unsettling about realizing that for them, this is a game with clear objectives. Control the narrative, maintain the mask, destroy any version of events that doesn't serve them. When someone values perception over conscience, deception becomes effortless, and the damage they cause becomes collateral they feel no responsibility for. There is something bone-chilling that happens when a human being starts to enjoy not just control, but suffering. When it's no longer enough to be right or admired, and they begin taking pleasure in watching another soul unravel. That's no longer just arrogance or wounded pride. That's something darker taking root, something cruel, something that crosses a line most people never approach. When a narcissist feeds on your pain, when your tears energize them, you are no longer dealing with a personality flaw. You are staring at evil, unfiltered and unashamed, looking back at you through familiar eyes. And the terrifying part is how subtle it can be. Evil doesn't always roar. Sometimes it whispers, a smirk when you break down, a calm, detached stare while you're shaking, pleading, unraveling. You're in pieces and they're composed. That's not indifference. That's delight. That's satisfaction. They hurt you, then quietly observe the damage, feeling powerful because in their distorted reality, your suffering proves their significance. It tells them they mattered, that they still have influence, that they can still reach inside you and pull the strings of your emotions whenever they choose. They crave that control the way an addict craves a fix. Because deep down, beneath the grandiosity, there's an emptiness so profound, they need external pain to feel alive. Your agony becomes evidence of their relevance. So they return to the wound again and again, pressing it just to watch your reaction, not with fists. They're far too refined for that. They use silence, withdrawal, mockery. They withhold affection, attention, basic kindness, then sit back and watch you spiral, desperate to understand, desperate to fix what you didn't break. They won't reassure you because reassurance would end the performance. They want you destabilized. That's the outcome they came for. You'll notice it in how they provoke you. You could be having a calm day, even a good one, and suddenly they drop a comment, a look, a single word that cuts far too deep. That's not accidental, it's engineered. They know your insecurities intimately, they know your weak points, and they strike with precision, sliding the blade exactly where it hurts most, then watching quietly as you bleed inside. Then they act surprised, almost offended by your reaction. "What?" they say calmly. "I was just being honest." Or worse, they tilt it back on you and insist you're overreacting. And that's when the real confusion sets in. Because how do you explain the feeling of someone enjoying your pain when everything they do is technically deniable? There's no obvious cruelty, no clear evidence you can point to, but you feel it. You see it in their eyes, in the way their head tilts when you cry, in that faint curl of the mouth when you finally break. That isn't empathy, that isn't concern, that is pleasure, quiet and controlled. They drink it in. Every tear, every crack in your voice, every moment you lose your footing makes them feel stronger. They start picking at your self-esteem the way vultures circle something already wounded. They bring up your past, your mistakes, your failures, your flaws, not to help you grow, not to heal anything, but to watch you shrink, to remind you that in their eyes, you will never be enough. And when you finally react, when you defend yourself, when you push back, that's when their satisfaction deepens, because now they have what they wanted all along: your energy, your focus, your pain. That suffering becomes the fuel they run on. And don't think it ends when you leave. It doesn't. Even after the relationship is over, even after you walk away, they still watch for signs that you're hurting. They monitor your social media. They ask mutual friends about you. They plant rumors just to see if they can still get a reaction from a distance. Your peace is a threat to them. Your healing terrifies them. They don't want you better. They want you bitter. Because bitterness means you're still tied to them emotionally, still thinking about them, still affected by their shadow even when they're gone. They have an eerie ability to sense vulnerability. They can spot it instantly, like a predator locking onto prey. At first, they flatter you. They make you feel seen, special, chosen. But the moment you relax, the moment you let your guard down, the switch flips. Now they start testing boundaries, seeing how much disrespect you'll tolerate, how far they can push without consequence. And if you stand up for yourself, if you assert your worth, that's when the games truly begin. Punishment disguised as coincidence, distance disguised as mood, cruelty disguised as honesty. They withdraw affection. They give you the silent treatment. They flirt with others right in front of you. They say things they know will hurt, then act innocent when you call it out. And when you finally snap, when the pain spills out of you, they step back and label you unstable, emotional, dramatic. But that was the plan from the start, to provoke you, to draw out your anguish, to watch it unfold. Because to them, your breakdown isn't tragic, it's entertaining. Proof that they still have power, still have access, still matter in your emotional world. Sometimes they go further, they sabotage your work, turn friends against you, poison your reputation with family. And they do it all with a smile, claiming they're just being honest, just concerned, just trying to help. But what they're really doing is setting fire to your life and watching from the shadows to see how long it takes to burn. This isn't impulsive cruelty, it's calculated. That's why it's so hard to explain. Because they don't act out of emotion, they act out of intent. They know exactly what they're doing. And if they've given themselves over to evil, they don't just excuse your suffering, they celebrate it. As it gets darker, you'll notice they surround themselves with enablers. People who admire them, defend them, excuse them. And when you try to speak your truth, those enablers become another weapon. They would never do that. You're being dramatic. That's what you hear. And that's exactly what the narcissist wants. They want you isolated, alienated, alone. They want you to feel like your pain doesn't matter, like your voice carries no weight. Because in that silence, in that loneliness, they grow stronger. Your cries get quieter, your resistance weakens, and they know it. At that point, they don't need your love anymore. What they want is your suffering. They want you to pay for seeing through them, for standing up, for healing. And when you finally rebuild, when you start to shine again, they may come back, not to apologize, not to change, but to disrupt, to remind you they still exist, that they still know how to hurt you, because pain is their currency. It's what makes them feel alive. And the most dangerous narcissist isn't the one who uses you. It's the one who enjoys destroying you. So now you see it clearly. This isn't just ego. It isn't just pride or selfishness. This is something far more dangerous, something intentional, something that destroys without guilt. When a narcissist crosses that invisible line and gives themselves over to evil, they don't just hurt people, they devour them. They lie without shame, manipulate without mercy, and take joy in the wreckage they leave behind. And if you've seen that emptiness in their eyes, you already know the truth. This isn't just psychological. This is spiritual warfare, a battle for your mind, your identity, your soul.